All right, for more on this, time to welcome into the show former Chelsea defender Frank Leboeuf. Frank, great to have you with us. What do you make of the latest loss for Chelsea and then the explanation we got there from Maresca?
Well, it's not getting any better, but as always said, I don't want to judge Chelsea in the preseason because for me it's kind of training session, but I'm getting a little bit worried about what I'm going to see in the first game against Manchester City. I don't understand. I thought the question mark for the past 2 years was the fact that Chelsea didn't have any striker, couldn't score any goal. And it seems to be since Maresca signed up that the prime is, and for years, the defense. Okay, that's the other way around. I didn't see that coming. And I'm okay if you want to drop, but you can't even drop if you don't follow the players who go behind the defense. It's not going to sort any problem out, and we saw that in the two goals. There are also another chance to score for Real Madrid before the first goal, and I was awful the way they couldn't get the ball out. I'm talking about the Chelsea players. So I don't think anything good coming out. Hopefully, Mr. Maresca will find a solution on that defensive aspect. And hopefully, this is going to score many goals if they keep on defending that way.
You called the game last night, Robbo. What did you see from Chelsea's defence?
They were too high. They didn't read danger. If one centre-half gets beaten, the second centre-half should be round on the cover, and that wasn't the case. Reece James is a very good player, but I was very critical of him last night because I was watching the game, and there were times where Vinny Jr. went short and then just span in behind him, and Reece James carried on watching the ball, and Vinicius Jr. within the space of a couple of seconds was 10 yards behind him. The recovery runs weren't good enough. The closing of the ball wasn't good enough. And I understand what Maresca's saying, that the play should be 5 yards deep, and that was something they did, because he's not actually working on that moment. He's gone in there and he said, my first 4 or 5 weeks has got to be how we're going to play out from the back, how we're going to be more compact. And they're not doing that very well either. So they've got major problems. With only a week and a bit before the first game of the season, I worry for Maresca at the moment.
You think the issues will carry over into the regular season?
Yeah. I'm watching, and sometimes pre-season is pre-season where you get a lot of mistakes out, but the goals that they concede, and when you're trying to fix a high line, it's one of the most basic things in football, Seb. I've worked with so many coaches when you do patterns of play, when you do 11v11s, they'll blow the whistle or drop the ball in a random area, and there'll be lines drawn across the pitch where you should be, where your back three or back four should be. If there's no pressure on the ball, you can't play a high line. That saying's been going around forever, since the game was invented. If you play a high line like Chelsea did against Real Madrid last night, and Man City, by the way, will be desperate that they play a high line, because their runners like Erling Haaland, etc., will all spin in behind. It's so easy to fix. You just drop off and be deep, and then you can try and get tight if you want to close people down. But when I look at Man City, there's about 7 or 8 players who haven't even joined up with Man City yet. They're all left behind because they're in the Euros or Copa America. When I look at Liverpool, there's Trent left behind, there's Szoboszlai left behind, there's Darwin Núñez, there's Diaz all left behind. This Chelsea squad is probably close to full strength. What they've brought to America is a full-strength squad. So I worry for Chelsea, thinking that's nearly your best team or best squad, and you're making such individual mistakes. And the other thing as well is in pre-season, if you're a player, you want to prove to the manager that I want to start on match day 1. I'm seeing so many Chelsea players that are playing their way out of the team.
Frank, you agree with that?
Yeah, and that's why I'm worried, because I don't see how they can sort any problems out. Yeah, they have some new signing, and I guess we're going to talk about the striker. But I see in the middle of the park nobody taking the leadership, and that we know that's the main concern for me, because they have no experienced players. Even if we have a World Cup winner with Enzo Fernandez, I don't feel that he can be a leader in that matter. We see in the first goal, they ended up being 2 against 3. We don't know where the left winger was, and we don't cover it. Nobody covers each other. We don't know. Badiashile doesn't know what to do, so he drops and doesn't take care of the guy with the ball. We don't see Reece James where he has to go, in which position he has to stand. There is no intuition into their games. They don't talk to each other. They're far away from finding a chemistry, and that's why I feel concerned about the way they play, because that's not something you're going to resolve within 10 days.
Since you mentioned it, Frank, let's talk about Samu, the player that they've signed, just 20 years old. Of course, on the books at Atleti, but spent last season on loan at Alaves. Looks like they're going to pay around 40 million euros to bring him over to England. Good time to bring Mario Suarez back into the conversation here. Mario, how good is this player that Chelsea are reportedly close to getting?
Well, to be honest, he didn't even play one game for Atletico. From the economic point of view, it's an amazing operation for Atletico that they bought him just for 6 million and they sold him 1 year for 40. But I think it looks like a little bit of Diego Costa when he was young, you know, very strong, running for the space, scoring goals. Also in last season in Alaves, he was on loan, very strong physically. I don't know, let's see. The problem is that he goes to a club like Chelsea, that is supposed to be a big club, and you have Nkunku, you have Nico Jackson, you have also Lukaku. Let's see what happens with Napoli. So I don't know, as we were talking with Sorloth before, is he will be a starter every single game. I don't know. You know better than me, Chelsea, but I think he's a really good player with a brilliant future away. And that's why the fans from Atletico was not really happy with this movement. But let's see what he can give to Chelsea in the future.
Frank, he doesn't have a very big resume, a very big CV, just 20 years old, I think only like 35 first team top flight appearances. Is that the profile that you want Chelsea to be going out and looking for right now? Is that the type of player that the club needs?
Of course not. I mean, I want to give a chance to the product, and maybe it's going to be a surprise because he's talented and you don't sign for Atletico, even if you play for Alaves, you scored 9 goals last season. So you have a quality, you have a status, but you're very young. We don't know. When I saw that signing, I said, okay, I have to Google him. So I went to Google, got the video of him, seeing playing for the reserve team of Atleti, playing for the under-21 with Spain, not knowing who the guy is, 34, 40 million. Where you want to go with that? I'm sorry. And again, maybe I would be surprised, but it's too many players with the same profile, with no experiences. It's very worrying for me.
It feels like business as usual, right? Recently for Chelsea in terms of the type of signing they're bringing in.
Just doesn't make any sense. Unless the kid is going to turn into a superstar, but I didn't see anyone else queuing up to buy him. Didn't play for Granada, I think played once. As Mario said, never played for Atletico Madrid. So you're buying, as Frank said, an unknown. Yes, the data guys and the analysts would have seen lots of tapes of him and see the potential in him. But is he really going to start Premier League games for Chelsea at 20? With, as you said, not a lot of first-team games to back himself up, to try and give him experience. So Chelsea have bought a player, and I think they've put him on a 7-year contract, which is their way, the 7-8-year deals to try and get around PSR, which is bizarre. So they're putting a lot of pressure on him, and it's going to be fascinating to see if it works or not.
Doesn't seem like an impact signing. Are we being too hard?
No, but it's a flawed system that Chelsea have got at the moment. Because if he does turn out to be this great player, he's going to come in and play at centre forward. What happens to Nico Jackson, who you bought in exactly the same way? Yes, we're buying him young, we're buying him, at quite a cost, but we're going to develop him into a great player. You give him 1 season, he was getting better towards the end of the season. You say, no, sorry, you're out the team now. We've given up with you. We're going to try somebody else. Because if you're buying young players, you have to give them time. And if Samu doesn't come in and play week in, week out, how is he going to develop as a player? Playing for Chelsea's under-23s, playing in behind closed-door games. It just doesn't make sense. If they bought him and then lent him back to a decent side in La Liga, that might work. But if they think he's going to be the number 1 for Chelsea, that's a strange buy.
Frank, last word on Samu to you.
Sebi, yes, not on Samu, but on Chelsea Football Club. I'm in relationship with many Instagram Chelsea fans. So everybody is hoping for the best because they love their clubs. And few of them believe that the club is in transition and is going to get better very soon, which we all know is going to be doubtful. But many of them are getting very angry. And I tell you, if it doesn't work, people are talking about riots. People are talking about saying to the club and the board that they're not happy at all. So they better bet for the best, because otherwise it's going to be terrible after like 2-3 games. And when you have all inexperienced players, how are they going to handle the pressure from the fans? That's going to be crazy.
It's a far cry, isn't it, Chelsea, when they had Drogba and Ballack and Terry and Ashley Cole and the greats that they've had, Frank Lampard, etc. And now Chelsea fans have got to try and watch a team that they've got no real identity with. They're trying to watch an owner do bizarre things like 7-year contracts and buying young players. So the Chelsea fans are turning up and they keep hearing transition every 6 months because they're sacking a manager. They're still paying Graham Potter 200 grand a week. They're sacking managers left, right and centre. And the fans just can't get on board. They haven't got an identity. They're watching a team and they're watching young players where they think, well, I hope he's great because we spent £100 million on Caicedo, or another £100 million on Enzo Fernandez, or we spend 45 or 50 on Lavia, and Mudrik's costing 75 million. They're spending the money, but the Chelsea fans are thinking, well, I can't identify with this. So what's going to happen in 6 months' time? Because Maresca's going to be under pressure. If he gets to wallop enough Man City, everyone's going to be watching Maresca in Chelsea on the early parts of the season. So they've got it all on.
What do you think the bar is for Chelsea? Like, what if you were to set expectations for this team right now for their fans? What would you say?
They've got to be challenging for the top four. There's no doubt about that.
You think this team will challenge?
I don't
the top
think it will
four?
challenge, but that's what they have to do as a football club, because that's what you've bought a whole load of young players and you spent a fortune on them over the last couple of years, a whole mixture of them. Now you need to see those players develop, and if they keep buying new players in, new young players.
You finished top four with developing players, though.
No.
What you will after a couple of seasons, if you develop them after a couple of seasons, but if you get rid of them after 6 months when they haven't had a chance to develop
And a new manager.
And a new manager again, because they're going to go through they're going to go through 2 managers a year. So there is no chance of development of these players. The whole strategy is flawed.